is going on with the video game industry? Well, now we know. Let's check out this video and see what they think.
Depending on what you actually count as a video game, the industry is now generating somewhere between $200 and $350 billion a year in annual revenue, making it by far the largest entertainment sector in the world, regardless of whatever your exact definitions may be. More people are playing video games than ever before. They are playing them for longer, and the not-so-secret reality is that video game companies have gotten a lot better at getting money out of them while they are.
Oh,
the vast majority of revenue in this industry now comes from in-game purchases and advertising, even amongst games that already have an upfront purchase cost or a recurring subscription. Now,
oh boy, think about that. That is nuts to even hear. To put that in perspective, most of the money that is being spent is after you pay money, right? It's like going to Disney World, buying your ticket, and then buying more stuff, which, obviously happens. But with the video games in particular, those goods are not real. Those goods are skins, downloadable, whatever, DLC. It's insane to me. The majority of revenues from that, no wonder why you see all this. Free to play is such a big model nowadays. Games like Fortnite, Minecraft. Obviously Minecraft. I think there was initially a cost to play. I think you still have to buy it. But there's so many free to play games where the entire idea is flood the market with a bunch of users and then just sell them a bunch of crap. That's crazy to hear.
Obviously, this hasn't been great for gamers, but at least a growing user base of people playing longer, spending more, and getting advertised to all across.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can we just stop down and look at how freaking ridiculous this is to have Homelander?
But at least a growing user base of people playing longer, spending more, and getting...
That's the craziest thing I think I've ever seen in my life. Homelander with a big old... Oh my God, I don't even know what to describe that. How do you describe that laser gun? Why don't you just use his eyes? And, he's essentially Superman. Sorry, that's just... Okay.
Advertised to all across more platforms has been good for the shareholders, right? Wrong. Some of the largest companies in the industry have experienced huge stock declines, multiple rounds of restructuring, narrowly avoided bankruptcy, mass layoffs, and divestitures. Over what should have been the best half-decade in the history of the industry, the overall market is down by as much as 30% from its peak, in the same time that the broader market has more than doubled. So, how is it possible that even with record sales, record new revenue streams, record numbers of new players, and record new opportunities to monetize that new audience, video game companies have still managed to screw this up so badly?
I have thoughts. I think a lot of it starts with bloat, starts with hiring way too many people, specifically around COVID, specifically around there. You saw that chart go up from 2020 up. It's just boom, 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 boom. There's money printing machines, but the costs associated with it are apparently outweighing what's being generated right now. That's why all these layoffs are happening, right?
Video game maker Electronic Arts announcing a $55 billion deal to go private in what is said to be the largest leveraged buyout deal in Wall Street history.
More than 150 million Americans are estimated to play video games. 60% of them do so every day.
Xbox is playing with fire, putting ads, a mobile gaming tactic, into their platform.
Electronic Arts and Take-Two Interactive both make a staggering 75% of their money from what's called microtransactions.
Microsoft announcing it is cutting about 4,800 jobs, or roughly 2.1% of the company's global workforce.
I'm sorry, 75% of EA's revenue is from microtransactions? Holy crap. That's unreal. This is a multi-billion-dollar company. That's just people going, nom, 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 nom. Eat that up, take my money, take my money, take my money. That's insane to me. Wow.
The layoffs include 1,600 Xbox workers, with more expected later this year.
Yep.
So, like every good shameless business video essayist, I am going to try and make what should be a pretty basic industry analysis into something bigger and more grandiose than it probably actually is, including the standard issue commentary on society itself. So, you've been warned, I guess. But in this case, there genuinely are a few factors beyond just a handful of companies making a long list of dumb decisions to create the worst of times in what should be the best of times. So, the logical place to start is that long list of dumb decisions. Video game companies have seen that the product involves software, people coding, and development cycles, and concluded that they are basically just tech companies. They have also seen that they have IP, storylines, and fans, and have concluded that they are media companies. Conveniently,
being both companies at the exact same time, trying to do without having a goal of either right there, tech and media company. Man, that's hilarious.
Tech companies are worth lots of money, so a lot of the businesses in this space were happy to go in this direction thinking it would translate into tech-level valuations, and for a while, it did.
It did, yeah,
but in the end, what they actually ended up doing was combining the worst lessons of the tech industry with the worst lessons of the media industry. The first was that they overhired in 2020 and 2021 during lockdowns, assuming that the pandemic boom in new gamers would go on forever. Examples like Epic Games swelled to around 5,000 employees.
Think about how absolutely asinine that is. The idea of 2020 happens, They start locking people in their houses. 2021 continues. People are scared to go outside, so they're spending all this money, their PPP money, whatever the loan money, whatever it was called that you got from the business. The business handing out the free money. Oh my gosh, we got all this money. It's expendable, and they're handing it out. So naturally they go, we're going to hire people. This is going to go on forever. What short-sighted thinking that was. And it wasn't just the video game industry, but I don't understand how anybody actually thought that lifestyle was going to supplant regular life. Like at a certain point, people were going to get tired of it. And they did. And to make all your decisions, now we're starting to see the repercussions of those bonehead decisions with all these firings.
Along the way. This led to the current wave of layoffs, especially since layoffs are contagious in tech. Nobody's stock gets punished for cutting staff in the same quarter that everybody else is cutting staff. Industry trackers count around 45,000 gaming jobs cut between 2022 and the middle of last year, 14,600 of them in 2024 alone, and the rounds have kept coming through this year. The second problem with trying to emulate tech companies was the...
Hey, you know what I love when I go to Microsoft? You know what I love being greeted with as soon as I walk in? That's right, pride! Here we are, everybody. Look at it. Enjoy it. Embrace it. By the way, we need more of this. I don't even know what this is for. What is this over here? What is it? Okay, whatever. Yeah, it's just a bunch of random colors, but we need more pride at Microsoft.
Session with making acquisitions. Microsoft in particular has gone on a massive spending spree acquiring studios to create the Netflix of gaming. They spent $7.5 billion for ZeniMax and then $68.7 billion for Activision Blizzard, the largest acquisition in the history of the industry, alongside a bunch of smaller studios to build out their Game Pass offering. Now, even regular streaming services outside of Netflix have struggled with financial viability, and the same kind of model applied to video games struggled particularly hard for reasons we will get into soon. The point for now is that by the time this shopping spree wrapped up, Microsoft's gaming division alone stood at 22,000 people. As they started struggling with returns and questions from their corporate overlords, they also followed the same model of product enshittification, especially amongst games with a locked-in audience.
I'm sorry. I missed this. Zillow for Minecraft? Like, I could kind of see the irony of like Beavis and Butthead or Cardi B or Seth Rogen and Call of Duty. I mean, maybe kind of, sort of. Zillow for Minecraft or Zillow for Warcraft? That's what we're doing? That's what we're doing. Okay, all right.
Pass Ultimate got a 50% price hike in a single announcement late last year, and Xbox itself has now announced 3 separate console price rises in 15 months, which I am told will be devastating for the 3 people still looking to buy one. Beyond just Microsoft, the whole industry is playing a game of eat or be eaten, with 189 M&A deals in the industry in 2025 alone, according to the investment bank Drakestar, worth a record $161 billion, around 14 times the deal value of the year before. To be fair, this was pushed up considerably by the $55 billion Electronic Arts buyout led by the Saudi Public Investment Fund, which is the largest all-cash leverage buyout ever recorded in any industry, assuming regulators actually let it close, which, well, they probably will. More acquisitions have also furthered the trend.
By the way, can we just talk about how silly it is? $55 billion cash for that. I mean, you don't buy something unless you got the money, especially when it comes to cash. That's nutty. But, you know, hey, maybe we talked about this on the show. The idea that maybe this is a exodus of woke. Maybe EA actually leads there because of their new owners. The cause of back to making games for dudes like the video game industry was built for.
Trend of layoffs, as a lot of the time, these companies are just interested in the IP, not the development teams themselves. Embracer Group, an investment and holding company, rolled up more than 130 studios before their money ran out. The resulting unwind involved cutting around 4,500 employees and closing 44 studios. Around 80 projects just got canceled outright, while the surviving franchises got packaged into a new company for a fresh stock listing. In such a rapidly growing space, they assumed the Silicon Valley spend money and they will come mindset would work here as well. In hindsight, it clearly hasn't worked out. But, well, why were they wrong? Well, a few reasons. The first is that a lot of gamers aren't actually gamers. They are just people who happen to play a video game, which might sound like the world's sweatiest gatekeeping, but I am certainly in this category as well. In the early 2000s, gaming was still a fairly niche hobby, particularly focused on younger people, primarily men, on gaming consoles, and an even more niche group that played on their PCs. In this time, online gaming was still in its infancy, and most people had a drawer full of titles they would play through depending on what they felt like. The primary content...
Real quick, I want to take a step back here. That's a very profound statement that the majority of gamers play a single game. And you know that includes Fortnite, that includes Minecraft, that includes Rocket League. You have your game, you stick with it, you know it. That has changed so much over the last couple decades, where you would have a litany of games, an entire catalog of games, an entire group of games behind you that you could pop in at any time, right? You didn't just like, and I feel like gamers, the customer has changed dramatically over that time as well. This idea that, playing sports games is now seen as like, oh, that's not a real gamer. But like, how many of y'all played NBA Jam? How many of y'all played, your arcade sports games? And you even dabbled in the sports games, these simulation sports games, played NBA Live or whatever. A lot of people just played video games. It wasn't like I play Fortnite, I play Minecraft. I play video games. I play on my Nintendo, and that has changed dramatically over the years. Let's continue here.
Of these games was a campaign or a simple gameplay loop. That has obviously changed. Over the past 20 years, even though the number of titles and players kept going up, the number of games people actually spend their time in went down. While making this video, I looked back through my old binder, and there were at least 20 games that I would play on any given year in rotation. Today, I play 2 games, and while I would like to make an excuse like I am getting old and just have more responsibility these days, the truth is I probably spend longer playing these games in any given week than I did playing all of these. Beyond the personal anecdote, this is a documented trend across the wider industry. Unlike other media like music or movies, people can commit far more time to consuming a video game, and live service games and a multiplayer focus can extend that time commitment to basically infinite. The only real limitation is the number of hours people have in a day, and an increasing share of those hours are being spent on forever games. Despite recent trends and understandable complaints, video gaming is still largely a very cost-effective form of entertainment, but the limit...
Just a quick side note here. You know what was not a forever game? Black. Black was not a forever game. Sorry, just wanted to point that out. By the way, shout out to West, who today on our show got mad at me for saying that Black was a 360 game, when in actuality it was an Xbox game. Appreciate you, West.
Limit new games are running into is not that their customers are running out of money to spend, it's that they are running out of time to spend, as most of their hours are already accounted for. According to Newzoo's playtime tracking, in 2024, 57% of total playtime was spent on games 6 or more years old, a further 32% on games 1 to 5 years old, and only 12% on games released that year.
Okay, hold on real quick. Look at the games that they're playing. Fortnite, Minecraft, Roblox, all those are old games at this point, over 6 years old. Yes, as I said, people are now... I'm going to play games. What are you playing? Minecraft. Oh, I'm going to go play Fortnite. They literally devote their entire video game identity around these games. That's crazy to me. Let's say Fortnite is 9% of all games played. Wait, hold on. Let's see where this goes.
In 2021, those older games were only taking 39% of playtime. That share has climbed 18 points in 3 years. For PC, this trend is even more concentrated amongst older gamers, with 67% of playtime going to 6-year-old games, even though they theoretically have a wider selection of independent new releases at significantly lower prices than console games. An extreme example of this is that one of the writers here at Works Media, not pointing any fingers, has over 10,000 hours playing League of Legends, and an otherwise totally neglected library full of Steam games. The top 5 titles on PC accounted for 30.4% of all hours on their own, and Fortnite by itself was 9.3% of all track playtime across PC and console combined.
Gosh, think about that. Almost 10% of all video games being played by one game. Total time between PC and console being played by Fortnite. Fortnite, of all things. And we talked about this before. I've talked about this on the show. Do you guys know the history of Fortnite? Do you guys know that initially the Battle Royale wasn't even part of it? That was meant to be just a throw-in. It was put together by a couple guys on the weekend because the original tower defense game with the zombies didn't work out. It failed immediately, but PUBG was popular, so they made a Fortnite Battle Royale, and that's how we got Fortnite today. Happy accidents. They spent all that time building out Fortnite. It sucked. Battle Royale came, revolutionized the video game industry. 9.3%. That is crazy to me. Wow.
So, while in theory, the total addressable market is better than ever, most of these studios are actually just fighting over a shrinking pile of scraps. Industry analyst Matthew Ball estimated that outside of annualized franchises, thousands of games backed by tens of billions of dollars were competing for around 5.6% of total player hours, and 4 titles won half of it. So, yeah. The industry has basically broken into studios that have managed to create a hit game and they are just milking it, and studios taking huge risks on the hope that they can produce the next one. It's just simply much harder to sell a casual $70 game these days, which has created some much more serious downstream problems. So it's time to learn how many works to find out how the gaming industry is imploding under the weight of its best years ever. This video is sponsored by Monarch. If you have ever tried to track your money across multiple apps and accounts, you know how easy it is to lose sight of it.
I think it's fair for me to keep this rolling while I talk about this. I'll say this. I've said this many times before, and this is something that I would actually love to experiment with in the future. I don't have $100 million to make video games. I don't have $1 million to make video games. But I would love to take a small amount and a small team and invest in some sort of game project that, maybe it's as low as $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, and let them do what they want to do. And look, we're talking super small budget, but I'd much rather produce a lot of small games than one giant big game. Because I think there's room for a ton of creative, ton of opportunities, and ton of you throw more darts, you have an opportunity to hit the bullseye. And I think that if you let people just do what they're going to do, you have a high probability of success, or at least a better probability of success, instead of just throwing one giant dart.
Barricaded inside the same 5 games they have been playing for a decade, which has led many studios to conclude that the only logical move is to create the next big live service game or die trying. This has created a trend of massive games with limitless features put together by huge teams with enormous budgets. The problem is that if these games fail to break through, they become extremely expensive dead weights. This also means that even at full price, a lot of these titles can't make their money back on unit sales alone, so they are leaning more on in-game purchases and in-game advertising. If these never eventuate, because nobody ends up spending that much time in the game, losses can be devastating even with decent upfront sales. And of course, it's a lot worse without them. Sony spent 8 years and a reported $200 million on developing Concord, their big hero shooter answer to Overwatch. It sold an estimated 25,000 copies, and the servers were switched off 2 weeks after launch with full refunds all around. Warner Brothers did the same thing with their Suicide Squad game, which missed so badly that the company disclosed a $200 million hit to earnings. And then they did it again a few months later with a $100 million write-down, mostly pinned on multiverses. Now, I know it's fun to point and laugh, but it's going to keep happening. Because of the network effect of these games, the results are increasingly polarized. They are either
I would just like to point out that it actually is really, really fun to laugh. But I also want to point out that I'm actually very much part of the problem. If anybody wants to buy a game of Concord, I got 2. Just let you know. Just reach out to me.
Smash hit or a monumental failure. People want to play games with their friends, so they play the games their friends are playing. And if their friends aren't playing a given game, they probably won't either. Helldivers 2 or Marvel Rivals, or even something like Among Us and Mecha Chameleon have broken through, and they are printing money from people who want something to play with their friends, but that self-reinforcing concentration means everything else is running a greater risk of becoming another Concord. But the problem is now, even if they do find a cash cow, there is an incentive to milk it until it curdles to find the next mega development. Sony paid $3.6 billion for Bungie in 2022, then tapped Destiny as hard as they could to fund the development of Marathon, and then Marathon flopped as well.
Oops.
Sony has now written down around $766 million on that studio in a single fiscal year. Destiny 2 got its final content update last month, and about half of Bungie has been laid off.
I honestly forgot about Marathon. The fact that it was released already. This was supposed to be the next big thing. And do you remember the total outcry when that game was the trailer was first released, how bland and muted and just generic, and the controversies around them using other people's art and AI and all that. It was nuts. Then the game came out and it was like a wet Miyamoto fart jar in a jar. It was stupid. And yes, I did say a wet Miyamoto fart in a jar.
And the biggest winner of them all is slowing down. Fortnite engagement has been falling since 2025. Epic laid off over 1,000 people this year, saying that they were spending significantly more than they were making, and we have to make major cuts to keep the company funded.
That's
this heavy
insane.
push towards
if your game is generating 10% of all video games played, and you're still spending more than what you're making, it sucks. The developers are getting cut, but that is 100% a management position. That is whoever is making the calls over there. They're the ones who should be canned.
Live service games that dominate people's time and drive recurring spending also means that people are increasingly treating games as a social outlet. Potentially, you might even say some modern version of a third place. As such, and hot take alert, a lot of people—
I'm sorry, hold on. That's Fortnite? That doesn't even look like Fortnite. That's crazy.
Outlet. Potentially, you might even say some modern version of a third place. As such, and hot take alert, a lot of people don't really want something new. They want something familiar. Friends like to hang out in common environments, and especially as the average gamer gets older, now 36 years old in America, that becomes even stronger. This trend of playing fewer games but playing them for much longer also explains the challenges that came with the subscription services like Game Pass. In theory, a modest monthly subscription for access to a massive library of games was a great deal, and probably more cost-effective than getting a similar selection of content through something like Steam. The problem was that people were only playing a small selection of games anyway, so having access to hundreds of titles didn't really mean much when they were only actually playing 2 of them. Microsoft reportedly set itself an internal target of 77 million Game Pass subscribers by this year. Again, assuming that this was just another streaming service or tech offering, this wasn't completely unreasonable. In reality, it got to 34 million, tried that 50% price hike from earlier to squeeze more out of the subscribers it did have, and promptly lost around 4 million of them. Now, of course, this is a generalization. Everybody spends their time differently, and if you are
Before he moves on to the next point, there is a lot of truth to the idea of going with something that is familiar. Look, I have we all have unlimited content at our disposal. And I thank God you guys are just hanging out for a couple of minutes with me on a day-to-day basis. Hello. Great to see you. If you're new, subscribe, hit the thumbs up and all that stuff. But there is some truth to when at night I have nothing else to watch. The Saved by the Bell 24-hour channel is my go-to because I'm familiar with it. It's comfy. It's something I can just pop on and not even think about. I don't have to try something new. There's no risk to it. I know that Zach and Slater and Kelly are all there for me to keep me comfy. That's kind of the metaphor here. What is your comfy show? What is your comfy game? Let me know in the comments.
Personally, someone that likes to try a new title every month, congratulations. You are probably having a lot more fun than everybody else.
Yep.
But for everybody else, there is one place left to actually find extra hours in people's day. Mobile. People just spend more time on their phones than sitting down at a dedicated PC or console to do gaming. This becomes particularly true for the filthy washed masses of more casual gamers. The share of direct mobile game revenue is now bigger than PC and console combined. $103 billion last year against $86 billion for the other two put together. Can
we just stop down for a second and look at the insanity of the video game industry in the year 2000? $40 billion. It's now 5x that. That is nuts. $200 billion. My goodness. Sorry, this is just nuts to look at. By the way, yellow is mobile here. Look at that. That is stupid. Stupid money.
Now, you probably already knew all this, but the point is that this can be a lot more lucrative, because mobile games are generally much simpler in design and development, and also have a system more naturally conducive to microtransactions. Often, payment can be handled through the same phone that people are playing on, which strips out the transaction friction that games on other platforms have to fight through. Again, this is well documented, but if studios are going to choose a proper game for real gamers, there needs to be a very good commercial reason why they wouldn't spend the same resources on building dozens of games for a much larger, more lucrative market. The only real justification is the chance at making the next big live services game. On the other end of the development spectrum, it's never been easier for independent studios or even individual people to create their own game and publish it thanks to robust game engines in platforms like Steam or even Roblox. But this means that basic indie games are an incredibly crowded space with immense competition. More than 19,000 games were released on Steam last year alone, and nearly half of them got fewer than 10 user reviews. To differentiate themselves, game companies have felt the need to create significantly higher-end titles that wouldn't be possible for smaller teams to put together. This has created a missing middle of games that are a cut above the indie selection in terms of features, but aren't monster AAA titles that cost more than Avatar to make. Court documents filed by Activision reveal that Black Ops Cold War cost around $700 million to develop before marketing. Despite
What? I had not heard that. Black Ops Cold War cost 700. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. How does that happen? How does that happen? That makes no sense at all. I mean, I've always said that Call of Duty is a tremendous value when it comes to the game space. You have your campaign, you have your multiplayer, you got your zombies, you have your battle royale. There is a ton of value when it comes to Call of Duty. I said this back when Black Ops 2 was being released. But the cycle of these games, it's a 2 to 3 year development cycle for these new Call of Duties. Shouldn't it be a regular just templated cost every single game? You know that this game costs $100 million. We're going to spend that every 3 years on these games, and we're expected to generate whatever. It should be so simple. This is why I'm not in the video game industry when it comes to development and stuff. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Maybe I'm too practical here.
Well, let's be honest, not really being that much different from any other COD games released in the last 10 years. In the past, studios could try to create a consistent roster of decent games. If one of them did well, that was great. If one of them flopped, that wasn't ideal, but it wasn't crippling. Today, even the biggest studios are kind of going all in on the success of their next release with very little margin of error if it doesn't work out. Now, to play devil's advocate bit here, betting big is not totally irrational when one Fortnite can pay for 20 flops. But the problem is that everybody is making that same bet at the same time into the same fixed pool of player hours. The frustrating part is that when anybody actually funds the middle, it can still work. Expedition 33 was made by a core team of around 30 people for under $10 million, sold 5 million copies in its first 6 months, and swept the Game Awards. It obviously can work, but I guess you also need to actually make a good game, which capital investment alone can't guarantee. And even if it does, it's probably going to get ripped off anyway. So yeah, the third big issue is clearly one that is not unique to gaming. If you ever see a YouTube video that does well, you can be pretty sure that there will be 20 other videos that copy it in the coming months, because making an original YouTube video normally takes a fair amount of time and effort, and if it doesn't do well, it can cause serious problems. Copying a video is easy. It comes with some guarantee of success. That's the exact reason why I've decided to mix things up and steal the Smoothie King's talking points and thumbnail for this video. Now hopefully it goes without saying that I am joking. I will always leave a link in the description below, and we mostly discuss different things. But the point is, this clearly happens everywhere on YouTube, as people just naturally follow basic consent devs.
And I'll say this right now. Look, people say that about me reacting to this stuff. Like, here's the reality of it, is that there is a 100% truth to that. Even somebody like Ludwig, this was part of his Streamer University presentation. He's like, if you see something that's working, take it, make it your own. Don't even make it your own. Just straight up take it. Unfortunately, that is where we're at when it comes to specifically YouTube. So thanks to these guys for, once again, providing this video for me to react to. Once again, I'll put a link to their channel in the description as a way of saying a thank you, as that is the proper protocol.
Same is true 10 times over for video games. Any game that does well is going to be copied by dozens of people with tools that make basic game design relatively simple. This is especially the case with people porting paid indie games into Roblox for free with inbuilt microtransactions. Yep. Last summer, Peak, one of Steam's best-selling games of the month, got cloned on Roblox almost immediately. The copy pulled in 6 million visits in about 2 weeks, monetized with Roblox's own microtransaction system, while the studio that actually made the game got nothing. The game developers said that they would rather you pirate their game than play the microtransaction-riddled Roblox slop ripoff, which is a sentence an actual game studio felt the need to post in 2025. Oof. Roblox is running 132 million daily users and 31 billion hours of engagement every quarter, which the same Matthew Ball from earlier estimates is about the same engagement as Steam, PlayStation, and Fortnite combined. Now obviously this is bad, but the point is, for large studios, it further means that they need to make games with some kind of moat around them to defend against obvious ripoffs. And the easiest one is to make something too complex to copy, and then integrate recognizable IP in addition to some guarantee of players being around for consistent online multiplayer. Now, it sounds bad, but...
And by the way, you see this strategy on YouTube as well. I think of a channel called AMP. AMP is a huge YouTube channel, and all they do is take what's popular and then just repackage it for them. A dating game, you know, they'll do Survivor, they'll do Slam Ball, whatever the flavor of the week is. They then take that trend, turn it into a video with almost the exact same packaging on it. You know, Survivor, but AMP, you know, and once again, no shade. It's clearly worked for them and seen a lot of success, but you just take something and adapt it and turn it into your own.
It gets worse because this has literally already happened before. The last time this industry drowned itself in cheap copies of whatever it was selling, it was 1983, and the American home video game market fell by around 97% in 2 years. So yeah, I'm not exactly going to feel bad for the big gaming companies. They have made plenty of their own mistakes and have leaned into anti-consumer practices to compensate for their own failing. But it's not been an easy time to be a game studio either. Now, if you want to see this whole dynamic play out on a wider scale, go and watch this video next to unpack the financial reasons we keep on making so much junk. And don't forget to like and subscribe to keep on.
All right. Thanks to those guys for the video. Once again, I'll put a link to it down in the description. Lots to unpack there. But I think the biggest thing is it just cost too much money to run these studios. And the biggest takeaway for me in that whole video was, how is Fortnite generating all this money, all this time spent on their platform, not game, but platform, and still unable to keep people employed, still unable to generate revenue, at least more than they're expending? That's stupidity to me, and that goes straight to the top. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments. I read all of them. Make sure you watch a video here and subscribe right here. Thanks.